Welcome. I'm Liz Taylor, ocean explorer, naturalist, and entrepreneur.
I'm Sylvia Earle. I'm an oceanographer, National Geographic explorer, founder of Mission Blue, and I'm an ocean elder. Thank you, ocean elders, for sponsoring this program.
Absolutely. And this is our show, Dive In, where we host informal and open conversations with the ocean community on topics of wonder and interest. And we're so glad to be back and hope that everyone has made some time to get out of doors. Um, we will put some links in the chat, or Gigi will do that for us. And then please put your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll get to as many of those as we can towards the end of the conversation. And before we get underway, we want to remind everyone that the world
Is
blue.
blue.
So today we're going to be talking with Dr. Roxanne Beltran. Roxanne is an assistant professor of ecology and evolutionary biology at the University of California, Santa Cruz. Go
Right.
banana slugs. The Beltran Lab team studies marine mammal movement, physiology, and ecology. Roxanne is a National Geographic Explorer and a 2025 Explorers Club 50 Alchemist,
Yes.
and the author of the award-winning children's book, A Seal Named Patches.
What's it called?
A Seal Named Patches. It's right there in the
Oh,
background.
there
And
it
we have
is.
a copy too.
Yes, we do.
Welcome, Roxanne.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and taking the time.
Yeah, we're so grateful to be able to like grab you out of the field and get you behind a computer.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful to have you both in the same place and to be able to tell you a little bit about science, one seal at a time.
Excellent.
Oh, look at that.
That
I
is
brought you a
amazing.
handsome boy to start the occasion.
Yeah, he is quite handsome too. So
Oh,
how did you get started in even, studying or contemplating marine mammals as a field of to focus in on?
Yeah, well, it's pretty easy once you see the elephant seals up close to completely fall in love with them. So my day job now is that I'm an assistant professor, and if you find me in the field on a given day, I'm doing something like this, trying to back down one of the big boys to keep my team safe. But it didn't start like that. It actually started at the San Diego Zoo, visiting with my parents. I grew up in San Diego, and we just happened to be so lucky to be able to live in a place with a beautiful zoo, and then, to be able to work at an aquarium in high school. And eventually I went to
Okay.
college, go banana slugs. And to sort of earn my tuition for college, I worked at the Seymour Center, which is a small aquarium that really focuses on marine science, and developed a total passion for communicating science. Was able to even work up close with some of the resident animals at Long Marine Lab. That's a seal named Sprouts, who really taught me so much about animals and about compassion and taking care of our planet. Totally fell in love with that in research, and worked my way through college to publish some of that. Managed to get into grad school to study fur seals and Weddell seals. So I got to go all the way up to the Bering Sea in Alaska and down to Antarctica to study the seals, and then found my way back to become a banana slug again as a faculty member, doing research here with an amazing team of people. I feel
That's so
really lucky.
awesome. Excellent. It really reminds me of kind of growing up around the around museums, the LA
Yeah.
Museum, and then later with the Steinhardt Aquarium,
mhm.
and just kind of really getting to know animals, right?
Yeah.
From the field
Yeah,
and
that's right. I think some of the most underappreciated people on the planet are the volunteers, the aquarists, the docents who bring the marine life to people who can't necessarily go and visit. We're all lucky enough to be scuba divers, but some people don't get access to the ocean or don't get access to scuba gear. So to be able to bring all of that to people all over the world it's such a special thing that I appreciate so much.
yeah, no, 100%. And I think about these elephant seals. I think the one down here in the corner, that it almost looks like it must be a baby. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think they get pretty huge, don't they?
They get up to be 2 tons. Yeah, 2 tons. So that's a subadult. He's not quite an adult, but you can see he's practicing, trying to figure out how to defend his harem. But that's right. One of the big questions that we have with the elephant seals is just learning more about them. How old are they? What are they doing? And it all kind of stems from this big question that we have, which is what can we learn about patterns and processes in our natural world? Like what's
Hmm.
happening out there? This is a composite image in Africa. Of course, not all of these things are happening at the same time, but if you go to a place like Africa, I've never been, my last continent, hopefully soon, but my
Yeah.
understanding is that there's all sorts of things going on and you can see them up close, but that's not true when we think about something like the open ocean. It's so
Hmm.
much harder to figure out what's happening out there, right? So we spend a lot of our time thinking about what the ocean does for us, which is that it produces something like half of Earth's oxygen, it regulates the global climate, and it stabilizes, our weather patterns. It provides food and livelihoods for tons of people. So it's a key driver of economies. It's a
Hmm.
key driver of human well-being, but we know so little about it. I think we probably know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the open ocean. Does that sound right to you?
Well, we're just beginning to have access. Just scuba has revolutionized the way people look at the ocean. It
That's right.
started, of course, with Jacques Cousteau. He put
Hmm.
his face in the water and then looked up at the terrestrial part of the planet and looked back down in the ocean. But
Yeah.
that's just the skin of the ocean. The average depth, as you well know, is about where the Titanic rests. That's the average depth. And keeps going from there.
Yeah.
11 kilometers, 7 miles down. And we're just beginning to get the technology in place that will do more than just take cameras or drop nets and hooks and
Yeah.
things into the ocean. Imagine what Jane Goodall would know about chimpanzees if she used standard oceanographic techniques.
Right. It's
Really, up there in the trees, high above, wouldn't even see the trees.
That's
Lower a
right.
hook, you might catch a chimpanzee.
lower
And
down a camera
yeah,
through the canopy. Hope you don't
That,
lose it. Yeah.
that's exactly right. And I mean, even in your lifespan, Sylvia, we've come such a long way. I mean, in part and in large part because of what you've done, the boundaries that you've pushed and the frontiers that you've pushed to make it possible for people like me to just go out and get scuba equipment and to go get trained at my university to go explore the ocean. I've done about 100 dives. I think you've maybe done a couple more. Is that right?
Just a few. No, it's such a gift, and we just love, like in our little, forward public facing side with our little Explore
Yeah.
store, the number of
Yeah.
people that come in and they're just so excited to find a mask that works for them, and then they
yes,
can they can see for the first time. It's like, I mean, I think about birders, you're out there and you're kind of looking around at the birds, but then you get a pair of binoculars and then you can see them better.
That's right.
And it's the same thing when you go into the ocean with a functional mask and snorkel. It's
but
like
just
this,
wait till we get submarines
yeah, more submersibles is what we really
so
need.
that little kids can go
Oh,
down into the darkness. It's beautiful
It
and it's
really is.
full of life. How
it's
deep do
incredible.
the elephant seals dive?
How deep do they dive, you asked?
How
Uh-huh.
deep do they go?
Yeah, thousands of meters, thousands of meters. So about 2,000 meters is the maximum right now, which is pretty impressive, I would say. I can't dive that deep,
No.
not even
Hold
on
your breath.
scuba. But we know that from biologgers, instruments that we can attach to them. And so when I first got into marine science, I thought, okay, scuba diving is going to be the tool that will open up my underwater worlds, right? And
Mhm.
it did. I mean, that first underwater breath, there's nothing like it. But I quickly realized that the seals were such incredible athletes that there was no way I'd be able to keep up with them. And they were such far migrators that there was no way I could dive anywhere near where they were going, which is thousands of kilometers offshore. So I turned to other tools. In my research now, we use things like satellite sensing, which is super
Mhm.
expensive, but
Oh
it
yeah.
has global spatial coverage. But like Sylvia said, the ocean is deep, and so if you're just understanding the first centimeter or the first meter of the ocean, you're not getting a full picture of what's below that. Sometimes we use things like research vessels that are less expensive, still pretty pricey, but
Hmm.
that are pretty sparse in terms of spatial coverage, and that there's just one expensive vessel that's going to one place for one reason. And you can drop tools off the side, things like CTD casts that measure the oceanography, and those are really helpful. Floats can do a similar thing at much cheaper, but at the end of the day, leveraging the natural migrations of things like elephant seals that migrate so far and that dive so deep and that come back to a single place, it's just such a helpful tool that it's one of the tools we've come to rely on the most. And you can see that little biologger on that seal's head, the party hat. That's an
Hmm.
instrument that's collecting information about how deep it dives, how far it travels, what it's doing, what it's experiencing out in the open ocean. And all that information comes right back to us at the fraction of a cost of many other tools. But I
Yeah.
see now that I'm looking at this slide that I'm missing submersibles on here. So I think you guys would probably add that if it were up to you. What do you think?
Yeah, we would. The animals that we've seen, just very surprising to us that they just come right up to the sub. They're curious. It's the reverse aquarium situation, right? Uh,
Yeah,
but they do. They come up, and we've had, sea otters, harbor seals, mola mola, swordfish, all kinds of things just come up and they're like, "What are you?" And just
that's
come
right.
super close.
But we need all of the tools, especially now, because the world is changing and not in our favor.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
understanding what's happening, what the problems are, what we're doing to push things in the wrong direction, but what can we do to push things in the right direction?
Hmm.
Elephant seals are really remarkable, but they don't know why things are changing.
that's right.
Even if they did, they wouldn't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. They also don't happen to go where we tell them to go, like the submersibles do. That's another challenge of studying the elephant seals.
Right? They're like, I'm going to go where I want. I don't recognize any boundaries.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But they are the world's experts at exploring the ocean in terms of having millions of years of evolution under their belt to have things like sensory adaptations like whiskers that can find hotspots of prey and lead us straight there with the biologgers, or like cognition, really good memory and good sort of quick decision making to seek out prey patches. So I was really lucky, both early in my career and more recently, to have support, as you guys mentioned, from both National Geographic and from the Explorers Club to really pursue the creative part of science. Like Sylvia was saying, we need all of this, right? We need the human tools and we need the animal partnerships. And doing those things together is what's going to give us the best chance, I think, of understanding the ocean and being able to protect it. And so with support from both of these amazing organizations, we've been able to use these creative solutions like instruments attached to animals. I mean, these instruments are so small and so capable now. We can attach video cameras to whales. We can attach depth sensors to sharks. We can attach accelerometers to seals, GPS locators to albatrosses, temperature sensors to sea turtles. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I biolog myself all the time. I get a
Oh
sleep
yeah.
score every morning that I wake up. So we can do that now. The technology has made it possible, and we can explore the oceans and all parts of the planet uh, with animal partnerships, which is a pretty cool opportunity, I think.
It really is. And I was thinking about, you're talking about the research vessel and taking the CTD casts and thinking about like, the advent now of or the popularity of eDNA. The
Yeah,
kind of
that's
maybe
great.
you might not see the elephant seal there, but maybe you get their DNA, or you see like the DNA of key prey species. It would give you an
Yeah,
indication that they should be there, even if they're not there at that moment. And
yeah,
kind of looking at those sorts of trends as well. And I think the birds probably play a big role too, because they probably give you a
yeah.
clue. Because are the elephant seals mostly feeding kind of near surface, deep water, everywhere?
Yeah, I'll show you some animations in a little bit, but the long story short is they're feeding pretty far below the ocean surface, somewhere between 300 and 700 meters, typically,
Wow.
depending on if it's nighttime or daytime. But they come up to the surface every 20 minutes to catch a breath. They have to breathe
That-
air just like us. And so they
yeah.
probably interact with the birds and the turtles, all the air breathing mammals and reptiles and birds a
Hmm.
lot, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool.
And it makes it better for your data logging too.
Yeah, that's exactly
They
right.
conveniently come to the surface.
It's very nice. Yeah. If you saw the picture of the seal, the reason the tag is on the head is so the antenna can break the surface of the water to
Yeah,
communicate with satellites. Yeah.
that's awesome.
So I think one of the links you guys put in the chat is our lab website. And if you go to that homepage, you'll see a link that says track the seals now. And there are 17 seals right now, thousands of kilometers offshore, and you can literally watch their dots to see where they go. And
That's
that's
cool.
the benefit of biologging is it's not just an amazing research tool, it's also an amazing science communication tool.
Hmm.
So, fun fact, right now there are 60,000 individual animals around the world carrying these trackers. This is a map of all the publicly available data, but you can see in here mammals, birds, reptiles, there's sharks, there's some fishes. They're all migrating all across the planet. And it's just astounding to see the geographic distribution of the animals, the variation in what they're doing. If you look at that top left corner, you'll actually see the elephant seals in the Pacific Ocean.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but look at that migration pattern. I mean, just the sheer volume of animals on our planet and the number of miles they're putting on their
I know.
under their athletic belts. It's just incredible. And the amount of data that they can collect is
They,
it's just unparalleled.
they don't seem to pay any attention to where we have boundaries.
No,
What's with that?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's one of the big, I think, conservation challenges of movement ecology is that there's no politics, in the open ocean when it comes to a seal trying to find food. If there's no one to protect them, the open ocean is the global commons, and we all need to protect it, and we have to
yeah.
protect it for the seals too.
I'm hoping that the high seas treaty enforcement really can
Yeah,
play a bigger role in protecting some of these big swimways and migration routes. And
yeah,
if you have this map up, and then suddenly maybe you overlay sort of global ship traffic, or you
that's right.
overlay air traffic, you could start to see the real hazards that are there every day for these animals.
And 30% is a good start, but we need to protect all of it from industrial extraction.
Yeah.
100%. I
Because
appreciate your optimism. We're so grateful about all the work you guys are doing to make that happen.
it's logical. The
Yeah,
ocean keeps us alive,
yeah,
and it seems that we're determined to do everything we can to just upset what it takes to keep us
Happy.
going.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
without a care in the world, we seem and determined to extract wildlife by the ton from the sea.
yeah,
I love the fact that there's a great initiative to rewild the land, but we are doing a great job of dewilding the ocean. And we just
that's
have to
exactly
change
right.
that perspective. We need to keep
That's
them,
right.
those creatures that are so important for climate and maintaining the integrity of the planet, to keep
Yeah,
them alive. A fish has to be worth more alive than dead,
Hmm.
even if they taste good.
that's right. That's exactly right.
And
There's
that's
a
just a
lot
habit.
to be said about the value of the creatures of our planet above and beyond the type of value that we might think to put on
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Priceless.
Yeah, and that perspective exactly motivates all the research that we're doing. So there's so many parts of our planet that are changing right now. We know that birds are getting smaller over
Mhm.
time. We know that migrations are disappearing. We know that ranges are shifting. And for us, the best way to study that is at the individual level. So we study individual elephant seals or individual Weddell seals. We learn about their physiology, their behavior, their demography, their ecology, their phenology, their morphology, and all of that is important for the research and for storytelling because, people tend to understand animals a lot better if you can tell the story of one individual seal.
Yep.
But individual characteristics like that scale up to influence the abundance and distribution of populations and the structure and composition of entire communities and also the functioning of ecosystems. So, all of that individual level data is so important for being able to scale up to understand how our planet is functioning. And as you say, as things continue to change, what we can do to protect our planet. And
Yeah.
so we typically partner with elephant seals to do just that. And I want to show you guys just a little bit of what our research looks like because I can't teleport you to the beach at Año Nuevo, although consider this your permanent invitation anytime. We in
Yeah,
the
I
state park
appreciate
would
it.
love to host you.
Do it.
And
Do it. We
you know,
must.
and it's nice, you have this upside of you get a lot of these guys coming to one place at the same time,
That's right.
roughly each year. But then there's the downside that it's like during the breeding season, so you have all kinds of uh, attitudes to deal with, right?
It's a little bit chaotic to walk amongst the elephant seal colonies when the 2-ton males are just trying to mate with the female that you need to study, that's for sure.
Right? Yeah.
Luckily, our team has a lot of training to be able to do that. So, for example, the picture on the left here is my husband Patrick backing away a pretty large male while I go up to a weaned pup so that I can carefully place that pup in a bag for about 5 minutes to be able to weigh the pup. We do that as a metric of offspring quality that also
Mhm.
tells us how healthy the ocean is. So, the healthier the ocean, the more fish the moms eat, the more milk they pass on to their pups and the bigger the pups become. So by weighing the pups, we can figure out what the conditions are like thousands of kilometers offshore. We give each offspring a little flipper tag that becomes its sort of ID, its social security number for the rest of its life. And then we walk around and we observe the seals. This is our teams and our students, our trainees, doing this about 300 days a year, where we get to see all of these seals come back to this one place. As you're saying, Liz, it's about a 2 kilometer stretch of beach. There's about 10,000 seals there at
Wow.
Año Nuevo in California. And that's something you couldn't get in most like whale species. A lot of other marine mammals, they just don't come back to a single place
Yeah.
where they're so easily accessible. And this is just a 30-minute drive of our research from our research institution. So we can go, we can see them with their pups, and we can get all this critical data on how successful they are in a year, the quality of their offspring, the survival of the young seals, when the adult females transition to reproduction, which we know is associated with the health of the ocean as well, and then even their lifetime reproductive success. So these seals can live to be 21 years old, and we can track them all the way from birth to death to figure out how successful they were and what their lives were like, which is a pretty special opportunity.
Roxanne, we almost lost them, though. Weren't they close to extinction?
That's exactly right. We like to say they're one of the most amazing conservation success stories on the planet because humans hunted them to near extinction just about 120 years ago. There were
Wow.
only 20 northern elephant seals left,
20.
20.
Wow.
And the only reason they survived is because they have these incredible migrations where they travel so far and spend so much time in the ocean that they weren't on land when the humans were hunting them. They weren't all on land at the same time. But luckily, the Mexican government protected that founder population of just 20 individuals, and then the US followed suit a few decades later. And then the populations rebounded, and the seals have come back to where they were and even expanded. We estimate about 300,000 northern elephant seals left now, and the population
Yeah.
seems to be doing really well.
But
That's
they
good.
but they rebounded from a very small genetic pool of diversity.
Hmm.
You
That's
wonder
exactly right.
what
And
was lost when so many were destroyed.
Yeah.
that's right.
And diversity is the key to being able to get through tough times.
Yeah.
That's
And they're
exactly
down
right.
to,
It does leave them vulnerable. I mean, it's just like, cheetahs or condors or
That's
other
right.
animals that we've kind of brought back from the brink, but there's always that element of nervousness, wondering, what could really come through. This sweat the small stuff, like we talked with the Dr. Colwell,
Yeah.
virus, bacteria, whatever little thing is there that could be really devastating given their,
look at those migration rates, though.
yeah,
That is just
incredible.
extraordinary. It's wonderful.
Isn't it amazing? 10,000 kilometers round trip while they're pregnant. So the female gets bred, the pregnancy starts, and then she goes off on this incredible migration more than halfway to Japan and back, diving
Exercise is
continuously
good
that
for you.
That's right. Got to
whole
get exercise.
time. Yeah, exactly. They burn so many calories, so they have to eat a lot of those Twilight Zone fishes, that's for sure.
What do they
Um,
they dine in the Twilight Zone? That
they
little,
do.
It's like a
yeah.
lanternfish or
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. That's a McTophid.
yeah.
You've probably seen a couple of those, huh?
A few. but
Tell
their
us what it's
eyes,
like in the Twilight Zone. I've never been there, but I spend my whole life trying to study it.
you'll get an invitation when the little subs are ready to take the plunge.
Perfect.
It's so frustrating. How many people have been 7 miles up in the sky? Millions. That's about where airplanes fly.
Yeah,
And how few have actually been that deep in the sea. You don't have to go that deep for the Twilight Zone, 1,000 meters. But until right about now, we have not had the technology.
that's
It's
right.
not that tricky. We just haven't made the investment.
Hmm.
If you can go to the
Yeah,
moon, we ought to be able to go 7 miles down.
Oh yeah.
And a couple dozen people have actually done it now, thanks to mostly private initiative. Victor Vescovo, James Cameron, the US Navy, and China has actually built a vessel that's taking people to full ocean depth. But we're just at the beginning stages. It's like early days of aviation, and it's
yeah.
so exciting. There's so much
I
out there.
agree. I agree. And I can't wait to see what we're capable of in the next generation and the next generation. But you're exactly right. It's one of the biggest challenges, I think, of the work we have to do in terms of protecting our blue planet is that we can't bring the Twilight Zone to people very easily.
Yeah.
You have to
It's
take
and
them to the Twilight Zone. That's what we want to
exactly,
do.
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah. So we're
exactly.
definitely working on it with the little subs and new kinds
Yep.
of imaging and of course being able to show, big data, real time, real world data on a map like this that
Yeah.
I know
it,
it's a
and
breakthrough.
where you can really kind of overlay all the different kinds of data that are there and begin to see people can see for themselves what the impacts of
That's
human
right.
activity is on an animal like the elephant seal.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we we branched out for a creative partnership recently. So I just want to give that a little plug, which is there's a bracelet company called Follow that sells bracelets and we give them our tracking data every year. So you can literally buy a bracelet for like $20 and you can track a seal. And that's what the bracelets look like. You get an app, you get an individual seal. So this is Tominus. We named Tominus in collaboration with the Alma Mutsun tribal band that's kind of in the local area where the elephant seals are. And it tells the story of the seal and it gives a tracking point every day. I know I gave my dad a bracelet at some point and he was texting me about Horton, his seal. Horton missed the exit. Where's Horton? What's Horton doing? So it really brings to life the data, which has been really helpful for showing people what it's like to get to know the seals a little bit better.
And that's really what it takes. We've seen like the Great Sea Turtle Race and
Yep,
other kinds of efforts like this to kind of engage people and have them follow like a specific animal.
yep,
And to your point, they do people say like, what on earth has happened to Horton or what has happened to
that's right.
Hope the whale shark or Jerry the turtle. They just want to know. And if something awful happens, fishing net entanglement or poached in somehow.
That's right.
Um, it
Yeah.
it it is just is devastating
Yeah.
to the followers, and but it really drives home the point that there are a lot of risks to these animals where they live just due to other kinds of impacts that we can't always protect them from.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And I think telling the individual stories also helps us focus on the hope sometimes too, which I think
Mhm.
is important. I want to introduce you guys to one of our favorite seals, 1885. She's that old lady, gray lady in the front there. She was born in 2002. She became part of our study. She was flipper tagged at just a month old, and she came to Año Nuevo for 18 years straight in her adult life. She lived to be 21 years old. She was one of the oldest seals. We instrumented her with a biologger. She broke the record for deepest dive. And then we instrumented her later and she broke the record for deepest dive again. She broke her own
Well,
record. She was incredible and she always came back. We always look forward to seeing her. You could always tell who she was because she was the biggest, blondest, deepest diving seal on the beach. And we had a bunch of students, get excited and get emotionally attached to her. And I'm super grateful that, she never got entangled by fishing gear. She never got hit by a boat. She never was starved because she had resource limitation due to fishing pressure. She just got to live to be as old as elephant seals can live. And
That's
my
great.
team watched her in her last year, and she had her 16th pup, and she was raising her pup. And the way it works is the elephant seals haul out and they give birth to a pup just a few days later, and they nurse that pup for a month, and the pup triples in size, and then
Wow.
the mom takes off. And her pup just wasn't getting that much bigger. Every day, it was like all the other pups were ballooning up from their mom's milk. And I think what we were watching in front of our eyes was senescence. She
Yeah.
literally got to old age, and she didn't have the capacity anymore to take care of that last pup, and she left the beach that year, and she never came back.
Never came back. Wow.
Did the pup survive?
And I say that story because it inspired so much research for us, and that those students were like, wow, can the seals actually experience senescence? Is this do they die of old age? Is this possible? And they did a whole research paper, this field course that I teach, where we help train the students to become scientists, and they collect data in the field and they work with the data and they develop the questions. They learn how to code, how to program. And they worked with my graduate student Allison to plot the breeding probability, like the success of breeding of each age, all the way from age 4 to age 21. And you see it drops off at old age up on
Hmm.
the right side of that graph. And they published that paper all as co-authors, and they're
Nice.
all
Mhm.
acknowledged in that paper as that coming out of a field course. So it was just
Great.
that one seal and curiosity and observations in nature that sort of led us down this whole path of research to figure out whether elephant seals really do grow so old that they can't produce pups anymore. And the students found out the answer was yes. In fact, that is possible. If we don't intervene, the seals will grow to be 21 years old. In fact, many of the students were 21 years old, so it's a bit full circle.
I think the oldest mammal, I might be wrong, the bowhead whales
Yeah, I think that's
can be,
exactly right.
Yeah.
And the oldest individual bird,
Yes.
oh,
Wisdom.
yes, wisdom.
Wisdom the albatross, which I
Yeah.
think you've met, right?
Oh, yes, I have
Mhm.
twice. And the oldest shark, apparently, the Greenland shark,
Greenland sharks.
may
Ah,
be
that's right.
400 plus years old. Love to know their secrets.
And then there are clams.
Yeah. And sponges. There's this Antarctic sponge that has been dated to be 11,000 years old
It's
throughout the
unbelievable.
Incredible.
whole Holocene.
All that from filter feeding. It's unbelievable.
In cold water.
Cold water, yeah.
It's the cold water. That's what does it for the Greenland sharks too.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah, that's
chilliness.
right.
That's amazing.
Um,
It's just so great.
yeah.
So did you guys have to intervene to help that pup or did it survive?
You know, we're not rehab, we're research, and so really all we can do is monitor. And so, we ended up keeping track of that pup, and unfortunately that pup did not come back the next year, but
Uh,
it's not at all surprising. Unfortunately, the survival rates for those young of the year elephant seal pups hover around 30 to 40% depending on the year.
Mm.
So a lot of seal pups don't make it that first year.
yeah.
Part of it, we think, is because of resource limitation that they're not able to find enough food. So, one of the
That's
big questions that we've asked recently is how have the oceans changed through the last 6 decades?
yeah.
And 6 decades is a long time to ask a research question, but I'm super lucky to be able to work in this research system that has been going since the 1970s, started by Bernie LaBeouf and then continued by Dan Costa, and now I'm the third
Yes.
investigator. Over 50,000 seals have been part of this research program, 350,000 observations, and it's an incredible data set. It's one of the longest running research programs of its kind. And it's really due in part to this amazing partnership that we have with the California State Park staff and docents. 100,000 people come through the doors of Año Nuevo every year. And we get the privilege of working with the docents to tell the stories of the seals so they can tell the stories of the seals to the people who come through the doors. And it's such a win-win for everybody. And we're so lucky that the elephant seals have chosen to make Año Nuevo their home, and become really a tourist attraction, to contribute to the local economy via these people who
Yeah.
come from all over the world to be able to see these incredible animal athletes.
I was
So
thinking about that too, just the huge economic uptick that comes from the seals being alive and coming back there. It's an enormous
it
economic
wasn't
driver.
that long ago that the only valuable seal was a dead seal,
Yeah,
That's right.
and we almost eliminated all of them. Now, there's more than one way to kill a seal, and we're taking their food.
yeah, that's
That's right.
shocking.
And gray whales, I mean, the survival rate of the young ones, I don't know what
Yeah,
it would
that's right.
normally be, but it has to be that we really cannot, in good faith, justify taking ocean wildlife on the scale that we currently do. We need live creatures because they hold the world together. That's the fabric that makes
That's
our
right.
existence possible. And we didn't know that 50 years ago to the
That's right.
same extent that we now understand the carbon cycle, the phosphorus cycle, the sulfur cycle, all of the elements that
Yeah.
are really the elements of life. And that we
Yeah.
eliminated so much from land and sea just in my lifetime. But bravo to you, Roxanne. 50 years ago, there were mostly guys out there wrangling elephant seals and other endeavors that took people out in the wild places. And
Yeah. I
you're
have to
there.
say, one of my proudest parts of being in my job is getting to be a woman in a position of leadership. But I couldn't have done that without people like you paving the way. So
And
right back to you.
it's just happening. It's the right time,
It is the right
but
time.
it takes somebody like you to make it happen.
Well, thank you. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head that we're extracting resources faster than we can understand them. And I
Yeah.
think if that doesn't horrify everybody,
Yeah, why don't you go to a restaurant or
yeah,
a grocery store and all these wild animals, as precious as giraffes and elephants, pandas, and all the other creatures, and just as threatened. I mean, sharks. Oh, we have really waged war on sharks, and it seems to some to be a good idea because they had this attitude that the only good shark is a dead shark.
that's right.
And now, I used to be affected by those who said, "Watch out for the sharks, they're after you, after us." No, we're after them. And
That's
now
right.
it's really frightening to go in the ocean and not see sharks.
That's right.
It is. It's this whole system of, you've got all the so what else do the elephant seals feed on besides lanternfish? Are they going after squid? Do they go
What the
after
babies feed
herring?
on.
What are they mostly after? And when the babies leave the beach, what prey are they reliant on that may be in short supply?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a lot of McTovid fish. We think that's about 80% of the diet for adults. We're still learning. We have a whole project on juveniles right now. We're trying to figure out what they eat, but we think it's also these mesopelagic fishes, and it's also squid,
Hmm.
but a smaller proportion. But it's really the McTovid fishes that are the challenge because they make up the majority of global fish biomass, but you know, we know so little about them. We're learning more and more every day. And, one of the big research questions is like in areas beyond national jurisdiction, in the high seas, what can we understand about the distribution and the abundance of these prey items? Because they're vitally important to the pups, they're vitally important to the adults. And these are just elephant seals. I view them as research partners, but mostly ambassadors for their habitats.
Hmm.
In that elephant seals aren't the only important species in the ocean, but they sure are one of the easiest to study. But they can bring us back information about all of these other species, like, beaked whales and sperm whales and deep diving seabirds and leatherback turtles,
Turtles.
all these species that
Yeah.
are crossing these same exact corridors. And we can begin to understand, like, if we're going to protect 30% of the ocean as a start,
As a start,
what
that's good.
what 30%?
All
You know,
of it. I
Yeah,
think
all
it,
of it.
I think
truly there may be
Yeah.
some special areas that deserve heightened protection,
Yeah.
but why are we insisting on allowing these industrial fleets that really serve a few companies
That's right.
in a few countries at the
Yeah.
expense of 8 billion of us and all the rest of life on Earth? Truly,
Yeah.
this is our life support system,
That's right.
living system, and we can't afford to lose it.
That's
We're
right.
the ones who will be lost. I mean, I worry, of course, about the sperm whales, about the turtles, about the elephant seals, but we should be
Yeah.
worried about ourselves.
Yeah.
Taking wildlife out of the ocean by the ton, it just seems, now that we know what we know, it's a form of huh, craziness,
Yeah.
Madness.
madness.
It
Yes.
is it is madness. It is madness and we're in direct conflict, right?
Yeah.
It's these patches. It's the patches of ocean productivity that humans are most interested in exploiting because it's the most cost-effective way to do it. And it's also what these seals and the whales and the turtles rely on to make a living. My grad student is working on a paper right now about marine hotspots and how the confluence of foraging hotspots and nutrient hotspots and human impact hotspots, how that all matters so much. And it's really complicated. I mean, you're right, there
Yeah.
is no obvious answer. It's not, okay, if I were to draw a square around this area, that would be the most important 30% to protect. It's all important. And
All of it. Yeah.
especially in the marine environment where these organisms are really, moving so much. You can't, elephant seals don't stay in a box that you draw as a protected area of their habitat. They're going to go right through that.
And I like this slide too because it really shows like the verticality of the protection that's needed.
That's right.
Yeah,
Because
top to the bottom.
we see these big migrations of those midwater fish from, they go very, very deep by day, and then at night, when there's maybe not as many predators around, they come up in these huge vertical migrations.
Exactly.
It's where the high seas creatures get their groceries.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's just so hard to study all of those processes across the whole, open ocean. And that's, I think, where the elephant seals are really useful because they dive so often and they travel so far that if we study 14 seals per year, which, for example, is what we're doing right now, you can see the
Mhm.
tracking data from them. Those 14 seals cover about 6 million square kilometers.
Wow, that's
They
wild.
make 140,000 dives, which is a
More
lot
than
more
you.
than I've made in my lifetime. How many have you made, Sylvia?
I know
Not
we're like,
enough. Not enough.
yeah.
More to come.
Good. They sample 4.4 million cubic kilometers of the ocean, which is 1% of the ocean volume, and they eat 3.1 million fishes. And so with these biologgers, we can literally get a sense for how often they're eating. There's a little accelerometer we can glue on the jaw that's temporary. And every time they eat a fish, it gives us a data point. So we know exactly
Wow.
where they're eating, how deep they're eating, when they're eating seasonally and during the day. And all of that is just super invaluable information for like you're talking about mapping that three-dimensional nutrient flux and the abundance and distribution of organisms. So we like to call it tech on the high seas. We say that these animals are really helping us explore this really like unobservable place and sort of augment traditional research tools in a bunch of really critical ways to figure out how the ocean is changing over time. So that's sort of the baseline research that we're doing, and we've tried to spend a lot of time understanding the open ocean and figuring out how we can help the high seas treaty and I'd love to spend 7 hours talking to you guys about that. But we've been dealing with a different version of chaos the last
Yeah,
few weeks, which is
I
avian
know.
influenza. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we should. I mean, it goes back to what we touched on earlier that this a bit at risk from the limited genetic diversity, and then something small, some virus, can
Yeah.
just wreak havoc.
You don't have the
Yeah.
diversity of resistance.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. As soon as there's not a lot of genetic variation, then the resilience of the species is threatened. And all it takes is one little thing to go over that tipping point. And it could be fishing being allowed. It could be, some tipping point in climate change, or it could be a little virus, which is what it has been for the last 38 days. Um,
Hmm.
and I'll tell you the story of how we discovered it. Just over a month ago on February 20th, we had a standard research day at 6 in the morning. We had three groups of people from my team going out. Patrick, my research partner, and I were going to do some observations. We had a team of mine going to deploy one of those instruments that you were looking at the tracking data from, and another team weighing the pups. And we got halfway through our day and we saw a few things out of the ordinary. No fieldwork day is the same. That's
Right.
the beauty and the chaos. The double-edged sword of fieldwork is sometimes you see the most spectacular things, and sometimes you see things that you've been hoping you aren't going to see for many years. And this day was the latter. We saw a large uptick in the number of dead seal pups, which is
Oh,
very unusual. And we saw a few that had neurological symptoms that were tremoring or convulsing, just super traumatic to see. And so that was at around 9 a.m. on February 20th. We texted our collaborators at UC Davis, who we had worked with to set up a disease surveillance program in anticipation of avian influenza possibly coming here. And we said, we're just wrapping up fieldwork for the morning. There's some suspicious stuff happening here. We got some non-invasive swabs from some of the sick seals, and we'd like to bring them to you right now. And my technician got in the car. She drove the samples 3 hours to UC Davis, got there, I think at 3 p.m. The lab closed at 5. They ran the
oh,
samples that night. Chatted our whole team and I said, hey guys, just want to let you know, I don't know if this is what we think it might be, but we might have some changes coming up. Like, please keep the elephant seals in your thoughts. And then I got the text, at 7 that night from the UC Davis team that there were positive H5 influenza, so avian influenza, in multiple of the seal samples. And, we have a big team. We care a lot about these animals. People have been monitoring this exact population of animals for 7 generations, for 6 decades. This is literally the worst nightmare.
yeah.
Because for those of you who followed the southern elephant seal news stories, they lost about 50,000 seals in the span of a few weeks because the virus down there transmitted from birds to mammals and then was able to transmit from mammal to mammal in a really effective way during the middle of the breeding season and was just catastrophic loss of the pups during the breeding season. So we spent the week, taking care of our people to make sure they hadn't gotten sick and then figuring out how to continue the research. We managed to do research every day. We're still doing it every day in full Tyvek suits with gloves and N95 masks. I mean, it's really like hospital scene during COVID. It's so reminiscent of that time. Um, but we've been keeping an eye on it, and ever since that first week, the cases have slowed and slowed down
Good.
more and slowed down more. And I'm extremely, extremely happy to share that as of yesterday, we were on day 15 of no new sick or dead elephant seals, which
That's
is
good. That's
incredible.
phenomenal. Yeah.
And not the outcome that we were expecting, but definitely the outcome we were hoping for. The bad news is, unfortunately, this is a cumulative number of cases of different categories. So, like the number of dead seals over that time since that first day up until a few days ago, we've lost about 50 seal pups, which when you get to know each of these individuals, it's a heartbreaking number, but
Yeah,
it's
it's gutting.
It's a,
it's a
Yeah.
lot less bad than it could be.
Yeah.
And the also bad news is that unfortunately a sea otter tested positive and died, and several sea lions have tested positive and died. So it's been in 3 different marine mammal species. This is the first detection in mammals in California. So it's a big deal. And unfortunately, the only thing we can do is monitor. There's no vaccine developed yet. It's hard to give vaccines to non-endangered species anyway. So we've been doing the best we can to just be as safe and careful as possible. But the good news is we have at least one hopeful case of a survivor,
That's
mm,
excellent.
which is the first we've seen. This is 007. He was with, it's just a subset of his mom's flipper tag digits, but very perfectly named.
Exactly.
He was born in 2026, um, and a few days after he weaned from his mom, he was seen acting really sick. He was really weak and really unresponsive. We sampled him with a swab, and he was confirmed to have that highly pathogenic avian influenza. But then, within a few days, his condition improved. He became more responsive. He started playing with the other weanlings. He started vocalizing. And he's been stable the last month. So it seems like they
Great.
can, in fact, clear the infection, some of them, and probably develop antibodies to it. So it's a little bit of hope in a pretty dark time, but we're so, so glad that it wasn't way worse.
So,
Yeah.
you know, Roxanne, there is this theory that in any wild population, there is some number that is in excess that humans can extract called maximum or optimum sustainable
Leo.
weight or
Yeah,
yield, which is, when you think about it, when you really think about it, there is no excess in nature. There's no waste either. We invented this concept. It
that's right.
suits the fisheries model, but it doesn't really reflect nature. I mean, think about how long these creatures have been surviving without humans imposing new guidelines for how nature ought to be. There are situations, with us or without us, where diseases or storms or something may catastrophically influence a population.
That's right.
There is no excess. You need that
Buffer.
leeway.
Hmm.
That's
It's a bit
right.
like an insurance policy.
That's right.
And I don't know what's going to
Yeah.
happen to us with 8 billion of us on a planet that is not getting any bigger. In fact, we're diminishing
Yeah.
those systems that keep us alive.
Yeah.
And it's the first time we've been able to even think about and look at the planet as a whole and learn from others, like the elephant seals,
Yeah.
what's really a good wake-up call for ourselves.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. I think, the worst thing we can do is treat the animals on our planet like data points. Because as soon as we treat them like data points, then
True.
it's maximum sustainable yields. There's a
Yeah.
couple extra, but those aren't extra. They're not the same. And you have no way to predict. We are so bad at predicting what the
Yeah.
future is going to hold because we don't know. It's constantly changing, and you never know when an El Nino event is going to happen at the same time as a marine heat wave, as a disease outbreak. And you
Yes.
don't know what combination of unique individuals in a population is going to get through that tough time. You just don't
No,
know.
you
And
Yeah.
so I
absolutely
think
know. You
the
cannot
best,
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think the
Precautionary
best thing,
principle.
that's right. That's right.
And
You'd
for,
rather be safe than sorry, no?
Yeah.
and for most of us, dining on wild animals, sea life is a choice. I guess for
Yeah.
a few people in a few places, it may be truly a necessity, but for most of those who do consume ocean wildlife, whether it's a lobster or shrimp or clam or tuna, it's really a choice.
Yeah,
There's lots of,
that's right.
this elephant seals don't have choices.
Yeah. It's
No,
They do.
they have one dinner
squid,
option.
squid or lanternfish.
They have two dinner options.
What will it
That's
be
right.
tonight?
That's
Well,
right.
we do have a few questions kind of stacking up,
Oh, great.
so we should probably try to get through those before we get to the top of the hour.
Yeah, that sounds
We kind
great.
of, I think we answered Tom's question about the seriousness of the avian flu.
Oh, look at
Um,
this.
and Sarah is asking, how can we bring the funding of NOAA up to the same level as NASA to
Yes.
expand ocean
Yeah.
exploration?
And let's
One
be
space shuttle launch gives you the funding to dive with a submersible twice a day, every day for more than 100 years. So that's,
That's 100% true. What do you guys
yeah.
think?
well, for one thing, the fisheries part of NOAA, I don't know what the exactly is, but more or less about $1 billion.
Hmm.
And that's really to encourage the finding, capturing, and marketing of ocean wildlife.
Yeah,
So there's a perverse part of NOAA. Most of NOAA is
It's in the
really,
Commerce Department.
well, that's true. But the research part, the protection part, but the National Marine Sanctuary Program is tiny compared to fisheries.
that's right.
And so we need to get the focus on learning and caring for the ocean.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And we have to start them at a young age, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the motivation behind writing our children's book was to say, hey,
Yeah.
it's never too early to learn about the beauty of the natural world and about curiosity and the explorer mindset and creativity. And we've had such an amazing outpouring of people who are so excited to read our book to their kids because it not only teaches the adults how they should be voting, but also, encourages the kids to become voters and to make, choices as they
Your
grow up
choices.
that will protect the planet.
You should grab the book and hold it up so we can see it better.
A seal named Patches.
There it
Yay,
is.
very good.
Liz, do
Thanks.
you want to tell them about our great new adventure?
Yeah, Roxanne and I are scheming. So we want to do the Tale of Two Explorers next. So it'll be a
Is there another question that we'd like
yeah.
time to answer?
Yes, we do. Sorry. Um, let's see. Olivia wanted to know what was the name of the company of the research vessel that you were on that you showed in the first few slides. She came in a little late.
Oh, I wish I was on a research vessel. I get so seasick. That's part of the reason I study seals. It's a well-kept secret. But I can go back to that slide and figure out exactly what vessel it was.
Yeah, we can keep on with the other questions here.
Yeah.
There's a research vessel.
Yeah.
Um, so Kate says she is an animal care volunteer at the Channel Island
Oh,
Marine Wildlife Center they begin their busy season. The past 2 weeks, the elephant seal pup intake has gone from 5 patients to 22, and we have 23 sea lion pups and 4 harbor seals. Just wanted to say thank you so much. I'm excited to see the invite um, and just working with these animals every week. So to your point, it's just great to the people out there who
Yes.
care about these animals and trying to do something for them.
incredible. Yeah, and I should have listed, animal rehab folks in my list of people I think are completely underappreciated
Yeah,
because, we see a lot of random stuff in the animal kingdom, but the people who really care enough to take care of these animals, especially when, humans are causing whatever challenge, the young pups starving or entanglements, it's really an honorable job. So thank you for the work that you're doing too.
yeah. That officer in Gaviota does some incredible work, and we have the Marine
Yeah.
Mammal Center up here in San Francisco area as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's see. Faces. Are the 14 seals females?
Yes, they sure are. There's a couple reasons for that. One is that females are really the sort of key to population success in the elephant seals. Not to say there's an excess of males, but the females are the limiting factor. And they do a lot better under sedation than the males do. The males are so huge that you have to
Yeah,
give them such a large bolus of the induction drug that they tend not to do as well. So we really focus on the females and um, they also go extremely far and right into the mesopelagic zone where some of the potential future fishing pressure is. So that's one of the areas we're most interested in studying.
that's great. Tom wants to know, has the disease spread to the rookery at San Miguel Island?
Thankfully, no reports from San Miguel, from Point Reyes, from the Farallones,
Mhm.
from San Simeon, from any of the adjacent rookeries. So this seems to be really localized. Our best guess is that, we have an island about a kilometer and a half offshore of Año Nuevo, and there's a lot of seabirds there. So the adjacency of those seabirds to the mainland is probably what happened. But somehow the other colonies seem spared. So we'll
That's
cross our
good.
fingers that that continues.
And Deb is asking, in terms of the avian influenza, can you account for the marine mammals at sea that are sick, or do they strand if they become sick?
Super good question. And it's one of the real big benefits to, you know, it's a blessing and a curse that this is happening in a place where we have so much long-term data because we already had adult females instrumented when the outbreak started. With the southern elephant seals, all the adult females left the beach and no one knew where they were or if they were alive or if they were coming back or if they were somewhere else. And so the instruments that we have on the seals are allowing us to watch them in real time to sort of do wellness checks on them every day.
That's good.
So our best guess is that if they had avian influenza, they wouldn't survive the trip because it really interferes with the lungs, and it turns out that lungs are really important for being an air-breathing diver.
Yeah, exactly.
But the seals all seem to be, yeah, moving well so far.
Good. We have a few more questions, even though we're at the top of the hour. I'll try to zip
Okay.
through them here. So Sarah says that NOAA is predicting a 60% chance of an intense El Nino through 2027. What impact might that have?
Yeah, El Niños are never great for elephant seals. So we will continue to, unfortunately, we couldn't weigh the pups this year. It was one of the research parts that we had to give up because of the avian influenza outbreak. We didn't feel safe doing it. But
Mhm.
next year, hopefully, we'll be able to weigh the pups. We'll be able to figure out exactly what the impact of El Nino was on the fish supply in the open ocean
Great.
And fishing
And fishing.
on the
and
fish.
fishing.
Fishing on the fish.
Yeah.
Um, Mandy wants to know what was the most exciting thing you discovered while exploring marine ecosystems in the ocean?
Ah, um, I think one of my favorite papers, I'll try to summarize in 30 seconds or less, is
Okay.
I asked the question of how elephant seals navigate in the open ocean. Because unlike a kelp forest, there's no three-dimensional structure. And unlike lots of species, they don't travel in groups. So how do seals find their way out and find their way back if they don't have physical features or other seals to follow? And the answer is they have a built-in GPS. It's called a map
Nice.
sense. And based on our data, it seems like they know how far they are from the colony and how long they have to get back. And they adjust their
Wow.
decisions based on both of those pieces of information. It's like if you're running late to the dentist, you make drive a little faster. Or if you live twice as far away, you leave twice as early. Elephant seals have that ability, except they do it without a GPS, which is pretty cool.
That is cool. That's amazing. They don't need ways.
I'm sure they'd appreciate it.
Kristen says she's very interested in marine conservation and wondering if there are opportunities to sponsor a tracking device on an elephant seal in the Great Salt Lake. In parallel, they're working on a nonprofit where we can fund flyover path for the white-faced ibis and for Ducks Unlimited.
Yeah, there's always opportunities to sponsor any part of the research program. So if you want to email me or go to the website, my email is just roxanne@ucsc.edu. You can email and talk to us about what it would be like to sponsor a seal. We'd be glad to work with you on that.
Excellent. Kathy's asking about a tale to explorers, but that's to be seen. Yeah.
True.
Um, Krista says, can you share the dashboard link for the following UC Davis Santa Cruz weekly information, HPAI
Yes.
information?
Yeah, I'll pull that up real quick and pop it in the chat.
And Katrina says in the UK, we're seeing a big increase in gray seals at the local area, which is a testament to the amazing work being done on marine mammals. And let's see, two more. Are sea turtles starting to lay, or do you think they may start to lay in new areas around the world that are becoming warmer uh, with the temperature data leading to male and female ratios?
Yeah, great question. Reptiles have more flexibility than mammals do in terms of that temperature dependence, sex determination, but they also have other constraints. So you'd have to ask a sea turtle biologist. I will say animals have amazing abilities to adapt to the things we throw at them, and there's also a limit to what they can do. So will we see changes? Probably yes. Will it be all changes for the better for the turtles? Probably not.
Probably not, no. But well, before we close today, we want to say thank you so much. Thank you, Roxanne, and thank you, Ocean Elders, and everyone out there in the diving community that keeps coming back and enjoying these wild conversations with us. Water does connect us all. We're grateful to all of you. Stay curious and spend some time in nature. And we're actually going to be back, believe it or not, later this week.
Yes, twice in a week.
I know we're going to be talking about dark oxygen next.
Yes.
And until then, remember, take care of the ocean.
As if your life depends on it, because
It does.
it does.
It does. We'll see you next time. Thank you again, Roxanne.
Thank you guys so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye for now.